What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Brave Exvius video. We're a day late, but not a dollar short. Today we're going over the new FF13 banner featuring the daughter of Destiny Vanille and the graceful champion Fang. Two new, more Esper units to come on in to Brave Exvius. So thank you guys for spending some time here today as we go over these characters, as well as thank you for supporting the channel via Patreon, as well as YouTube channel memberships. It helps us not entirely rely on the ad revenue generated by YouTube, because it can be helter-skelter and things of that nature. You know, it's hard to express how it is unless you're in that boat. Anyways, guys, holy crap. Let's get in here with Daughter of Destiny Vanille. Let's talk about her. She's going to be very similar to Rikku. Right off the bat, she's going to have some nice breaking potential. She'll be very similar, but a little bit different. If you think of her as like a mage version that has some imperils for your team, but doesn't have some of the other things that Rikku does have, this is going to be smack dab, pretty much dead on. You're going to have a very nice general idea of how she's going to work. Her team right here is the Malboro Wand. It's called a wand, but it is a whip. It gives 125 magic, 108 spirit, as well as the effect of a lady's kiss, which makes you immune to poison, paralysis, and gives you 30% HP. So it's a very nice TMR as long as you can equip those whips. So it's going to be very good on her just by making her tankier against magic damage, giving her a little bit of magic to make her do more damage, as well as making her tankier overall with the HP percent passive there. Her S-TMR is the Orbera's Boon, which is going to give you 60% magic and spirit. It's going to make you 50% immune to stop. So 50% resist to stop. And it does give you a ignore death passive here, the Guts passive. 100% proc chance when your HP is above 1%. We've seen stuff like this before with Primrose, etc. Very solid super TMR, but you don't need to go crazy over it there, okay, guys? So if you're going to have it, you'll probably use it. The ignore death passive is very strong on supports and healers, right? If they get one shot by a big attack, instead they won't. So very strong in those circumstances. Let's move into her weapon selection here. We have stabs, rods, harps, and whips, of course. Armor selection, hats, clothing, and the none other than the classic robe. Now let's get into her innate abilities here. She has a couple of garbage skills that you probably won't use that much with Pummel and Aerial Tackle, just kind of nonsensical low mod skills that don't do anything special there. Piercing Ray is her first skill here. It's going to be Chaos Wave Awakened. Earth magic damage 8 times mod, has 80% Earth Imperil for 5 turns to a single target, so you can use this to chain with other mages if you want to. It also has a lower Imperil. She has a higher Imperil in her kit elsewhere, but if you need to have a backup Imperil, this is going to be something for you to utilize there. Talking about backup things, she has backup breaks here with a force projection, which is going to be a 65% attack, defense, magic, and spirit break to one enemy for 3 turns. It's a very low 1.8 mod, so it does do damage, but the damage is so negligible it might as well not even exist. She has Overwhelm, which if you're an FF13 fan was something that you could use in the game. And this is going to give you 150% magic buff for 3 turns to one ally except for herself, 150% high tide for 3 turns to one ally except for herself, and then it's going to give herself those buffs anyway. So you target one other person, they get those buffs, and she's going to get those buffs as well. Really kind of lackluster skill here in the day and age that we are right now in Brave Exvius, but it does exist as an option for you. She's not really primarily a buffer, she is a debuffer, kind of like how she was in 13. Now she's going to have a cooldown skill at 6-star, Titanomachi, dude. Titanomachi, 5-turn cooldown available on turn 5, 80% attack, defense, magic, and spirit break for 1 turn to all enemies, and it is going to be a 26 times multiplier with ignore 50% spirit to all enemies as well, and it's going to be a Chaos Wave Awakened skill here. So this is another way to extend her breaks. So this is not her main breaking skill. Her main breaking skill is down below, but this is going to be able to extend those breaks for an additional turn on these turns where you want to keep these breaks up. So we're going to go over, of course, what she's good for afterwards and how to use her with her rotation a little bit to give you guys an idea about that. Now she has area stagger, defensive, and offensive. These are her true backup breaks. So she's got a area stagger defensive skill, 75% defense and spirit break for 4 turns to all enemies, with a 150% attack and magic buff for 4 turns to herself. Now those buffs are not to your party, they are to herself. Area stagger offensive is a 75% attack and magic break for 4 turns to all enemies, and it's a 150% defense and spirit buff to herself as well. She has Hurricane Kick and Chain Cannons, which is going to be Chaos Wave Awakened, 8 times multiplier. Hurricane Kick is Wind Elemental, Chain Cannons is Earth Elemental, and then she has Missile, Tetrad here, which is going to auto cast. It's going to do nothing the turn you cast it, but it's going to auto cast the next turn, 3 times multipliers to all enemies, left, right, and center. But it's also going to, importantly, be an 80% attack, defense, magic, and spirit break for 1 turns to all enemies as well. So another option to further extend her breaks, guys. So once again, we'll go over that stuff in a minute. She does have dual cast, which is allowing her to dual cast anything except for Overwhelm, which is not that big of a deal because Overwhelm isn't that crazy good. And then we get into her 7-star kit here, Defying Destiny Vanille. 8-turn cooldown available on 1. Decreases attack, defense, magic, and spirit by 80% for 4 turns to all enemies, as well as decreasing their earth resistance by 120% for 4 turns to all enemies there. So this is where her main big break comes from, and then you can extend these 80% breaks using her other skills once these breaks are about to wear off. So that's pretty cool. That's a solid option there, right? You can Define Destiny for a little bit here for 4 turns on turn 1, and then when these are about to wear off, you are going to be on turn 5. You are going to be able to use her 5-turn cooldown skill for an 80% attack, defense, magic, and spirit break for an additional turn there with some Chaos Wave Awaken damage, but the same turn that you're casting Titanomachy or Titanimacy, whatever. The same turn you're casting this stuff, you will also be able to cast Missile Tetrad, right? Missile Tetrad doesn't do anything the turn you cast it, so you want to cast it on a turn before you need these breaks. So you'll have a 1-turn break here with her cooldown skill, and then the next turn, once these 1-turn cooldowns wear off, you're going to reapply them with Missile Tetrad. So very easy rotation to go through here. Then you can keep casting Missile Tetrad if you want to, but there is other ways to keep those breaks up even longer with her Limit Burst, which we'll go into right now. We'll skip over the last couple of her cooldown skills, but we're going to go over Gaian Salvo here. 27 Limit Burst crystals, 14 times mod magic damage with ignore 50% spirit, so 28 times mod total, with 80% attack, defense, magic, and spirit break for 4 turns to all enemies once again. So just like Rikku, she has a 4-turn 80% break to all enemies attached to her Limit Burst there. So a lot of cool options you can do with her, right? You can go in here, you can use Defying Destiny Vanille right away on turn 1, and then once these wear off, you can make the choice of using her Limit Burst for another 4-turn break, or you can go right into Titanomaxy and use the 80% 1-turn, and then on that turn as well, cast Missile Tetrad. So then on turn 5, you'll have your 1-turn breaks. On turn 6, this will auto cast, and that'll go off again, and then you can keep casting Missile Tetrad until Defying Destiny Vanille comes up again, and at any time, you can use your Limit Burst to your biggest advantage there. So she's got a lot of cool options for breaks. She's got a lot of utilization. If you think that you're up against a boss who's going to constantly dispel themselves every single turn, then you will just spam Missile Tetrad every single turn to re-break them by 80% every single turn. So it's very strong in her kit that she can do that. Now she has Death as well, 2-turn cooldown available on turn 2. It has a 90% chance to inflict death, but if the enemy is immune to death or the death fails, it also is going to do a 15 times mod with ignores 50% spirit to all enemies. It's a 1-hit skill, so you can chain finish this skill every other turn. She's going to add some nice supplemental damage to your party there. She also has 100 Arms, which is a 6-turn cooldown available on turn 1. It's going to be a 100% Earth Resist buff for 4 turns to your party. It's going to add Earth Elemental to physical attacks for 4 turns to all allies as well. And it's also going to apply a nice 40% General Mitigation for 4 turns to all allies as well. And that General Mitigation effect cannot be dispelled. So you can have a nice, very strong opening Wombo combo, something that Rikku cannot do, where you can Earth Imbue your characters, Earth Imperil your characters as well with Defying Destiny Vanille, and get that 80% all-stat break for all enemies on turn 1. So you should do all 3, the big Wombo combo, Imbue, Imperil, and break. Big breaks, big Imperil, and that long-lasting Imbue, all of them for 4 turns, starting right away on turn 1. So very strong there. And then her final skill is the Force Blasters. Chaos Wave Awaken, Earth Magic damage. In the first 7 hits, 2.5 multiplier, ignore 50% spirit. And that final hit there is 10 times mod, ignore 50% spirit. This is her biggest damage dealing skill that she has associated with her. So Force Blasters, big skill there. Any sort of multipliers that are going to buff up Force Blasters, if she does have any, are going to be applied 4 times there. For passives, let's go down in here right now. She's got some various defense, HP, and spirit passives. Pretty strong, but not super crazy. 20%, 30%, 40% strewn around through her kit. She does have 175% true double hand magic there. And she also does have 20% MP defense and spirit if you're equipped with a rod or a whip. So she's traditionally a true double hand character. She doesn't have true dual wield in her kit. So you're only gonna be able to get one of these two buffs, the rod or the whip. Traditionally, you're going to be getting the whip because of her TMR there. She also has 25% machine killer, and she also does have a 3x mod increase to a lot of her skill here, including force blasters. So this 3x mod for a lot of her skills is pretty irrelevant, but force blasters is going to get this applied 4 times. So it's actually a 12x mod increase there to force blasters. So pretty strong there. Force blaster is going to go from a 15x mod to a 27x mod. Nothing super crazy meta breaking compared to the other mages that we do have, but she's more of a support than a mage, and so she is going to be able to do a lot of cool stuff by triple casting this multiplier here. Now, moving into her other parts of her kit here, she does have some earth and wind resistance of 50%. She's immune to paralysis, or not paralysis, petrify, sleep, and confusion. She has some counterattacks, volition to atone, which we're going to go over right now, which allows her to triple cast here. So if she gets hit, she has 20% chance to unlock triple cast to do a little bit of extra damage here with her triple Gestalt skill. Her magic skills that she does have access to, she does have full life, veil, which are pretty cool. A veil is a new one here, not really seen too much of in Brave Exvius, but it increases resistance to status ailments by 100% for 5 turns to a single ally. So she does have that as well as a skill. So she's got some raises with full life, and she does have some status ailment immunity, but only to a single person. Now, she also does have Barfaraga, Thundaga, Blizzaga, and Waterga to go with her supportive skills as well. So don't count out her magic. She actually has some pretty strong magic. It's sort of like green mage-esque magic coupled with a full life. So that's Vanille. She's actually really good. Very strong character, especially if you don't have like an 80% breaker, because she's not just an 80% breaker. She does do some decent damage. She's got some other utility with elemental resistances, and she's got that nice imbue and peril combo. Now, should I think you should pull for Daughter of Destiny Vanille? If you need a breaker right today and you want one, then she's going to be very solid for you, but there are going to be 2 other options for you in the future. There's going to be the sooner option, which is going to be Lakshmi Lid, which I think is a little bit better than Daughter of Destiny Vanille, and then the option after that is actually CG Vaughn, who is better than any of the other characters in the game in a wide scope of ranges. So CG Vaughn does the breaks very, very, very well, breaks all day. He's got a lot of damage as well, very strong damage with his LB. He does chaining. He's just chain finishing. He's got some Aurora Ray chaining in there if you want to. And then he's got the Mirage Abuse buff. He's got that down pat. It's a very strong skill for you to be using there. So Daughter of Destiny Vanille, if you need a breaker right now, go for her. But if you want to wait for another breaker down the road, you're kind of okay right now, then go ahead and wait for, in my opinion, CG Vaughn. Now, Graceful Champion Fang is coming in. Big Dragoon damage. So if you're part of the big Dragoon burst damage hype, she's going to be a character that's going to be on your radar, possibly. So let's get in here. Her TMR is the Dragon Horn, 135 attack, 2-handed spear with the effect of Wrath of the Dragon King, 25% Dragoon, or Dragon Killer, not Dragoon Killer. She doesn't want to go after herself, but 25% Dragoon, Dragon Killer. Oh my goodness. This TMR is not the greatest thing. It's 2-handed, 135 attack. That's terrible, honestly. We've seen better stuff like Star Spear with jump damage and stuff. This has Dragon Killer on it. It's kind of whatever. I don't like it. I think it's pretty bad, honestly. Her STMR here is going to be Memories of Ragnarok, which also is pretty bad in comparison to something we've had for a long time. This is going to be 100% jump damage and then 70% attack when equipped with a spear. This is just worse in every way than Roberta's Super TMR. However, if you are using a Dragoon, they do stack. And if you are using a spear, they will stack in tandem and you will get that attack bonus anyway. But Roberta's, remember, is 100% jump damage and then 70% attack no matter what it is that you're wearing. It also has a little bit of HP and defense on top of that as well. So definitely 2 TMRs, TMR and STMR that are worse than things that have already existed in the game for a long time. Don't know why they were made that way. Don't know why they weren't buffed, considering she was globally upgraded. But hey, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And a lot of the times here, the STMR, you might want to have that in your back pocket if you are using this character, because she is a Dragoon and you're going to be wanting to true dual wield here to maximize her damage, which means you cannot use her TMR because it is 2-handed. So if you want to activate her trust ability, you're going to have her STMR. Now, speaking of her kit, let's go in here. Equipment selection very quickly. Spears, swords, and daggers. Very limited. but you can make do with that. Her armor selection: shields, light shields, which she's not going to be wearing. She's going to be dual wielding, and then she's going to wear a hat, clothing, or light armor. Her special abilities here, we have Dragon Claws, very terrible skill you'll never use. Defense and Spirit, 55% break. That's literally all it does. She does have Whirlwind here, which unlocks Umbral Vice for 5 turns to the caster. That's the most prominent thing that it does. We'll talk about that. And then we have Dragon's Volley over here, 4-turn cooldown, available on turn 4. This is a very strong skill. In longer encounters, you will use this because it increases the mod of High Wind Plus by 7 times for 12 turns to the caster. And High Wind Plus is her timed jump skill, her main one. Now on top of that though, this skill itself is a 50 times mod timed jump skill. So if you know anything about Dragoons, you know how powerful a 50 times mod jump will be. Like CG Sid right now is 40 times mod timed jump, and it is very, very strong. His burst damage is insane. If people are trying to one-shot damage cap the highest tier of Dark Vision's bosses, that's what they're using. They're using the 40 times mod jump on CG Sid, and this is something that does a lot of damage, very similar to CG Sid. And High Wind Plus is no slouch either, and we'll go over High Wind Plus in a minute. Now she also does have Cyclone and Earth Dives, which are going to be her way to imbue and imperil for herself. They are going to be absolute mirror of equity chaining frame families. Cyclone Dive, 5 times mod, 80% imperil for 5 turns to one enemy, and Wind Imbue for 5 turns to the caster. Earth Dive is the same exact thing, except it is earth-based. She also has Furious Impact here, which is an absolute mirror of equity skill. You'll use this skill to do a little bit of damage, total of a 10 times mod. 7 hits are going to be 1 times mod, and then the final hit is going to be a 9 times mod, and it's going to give you 3 to 4 limit burst gauge crystals. So you're going to be using this primarily to fill up that limit burst if you want to do it, and her limit burst is fairly useful. High Wind here, as you can see, is the only skill she has that is not dual or triple castable. And she does have triple cast as well as dual cast. So High Wind normal is 6 times mod to all enemies, and then it's going to launch you into the air, and it's going to be a 10 times mod timed jump delay for 1 turn. However, if you use this skill after Gestalt Mode or Pulsar Burst or Umbral Vice, it turns into High Wind Plus, where you will do an absolute mirror of equity chain right away, right, 12 times mod, and then you'll jump into the air, and it'll be a 20 times mod timed jump when you land back down. Now, do not confuse this. This is not like Roberta's skill tried to be, where she chains and then lands in the same turn. This is, you chain the turn you activate it, and then you jump up and you land all by itself the following turn. Now, there are mod buffs to this. We've already seen it 7 times, but passively, she does have a passive that increases it by a 20 times mod, which does affect both parts. So the chaining part will be a 32 times mod, and the time jump will be a 40 times mod. So without using any sort of cooldowns or anything at all, this skill is going to have a base 40 times time jump delay, which is kind of what we talk about with CG Sid after he uses his true spine shatter dive +0/+2, whatever it's called. So very, very strong skill there. Now the Gestalt Mode here is going to give yourself a 250% attack buff for 5 turns, a 50% beast killer buff for 5 turns, and enables triple Gestalt for 5 turns as well, which is her triple cast. And also, like we just talked about, High Wind will turn into High Wind Plus the turn after you Gestalt Mode. So if you want to go in there and jump and do big damage with High Wind Plus, you'll Gestalt Mode, and then the turn afterwards you will use High Wind Plus, and then the turn after that you will land. She has Scourge Fang here, absolute mirror of equity, 22 times mod, chaining skill here, and it increases the mod of Jeopardize by a 19 times multiplier. Jeopardize is a 20 times mod, increases the limit burst gauge by 4 to 5, and also will increase your limit burst damage by 50% for 5 turns to the caster. So this is going to be the better version of Furious Impact that we saw before. And remember, it's going to, if you're using the skill right, dual casting, triple casting, you'll use Scourge Fang first, and then you'll use Jeopardize, and Jeopardize will get that 19 times mod increase. So the Scourge Fang for 22 times mod, and then Jeopardize for 39 times mod, you'll get that nice little buff there. And then Pulsar Burst is her 3-turn cooldown, available on turn 3. Physical damage, 46 times mod to all enemies there. Absolute mirror of equity chaining frame family. So if you're triple casting with a Fang, right, on turn 3, you'll have your triple cast unlocked. You'll Scourge Fang into Jeopardize into Pulsar Burst there. That'll be your big 1-2-3 punch. Nothing super insane, but it'll be a way for you to do that after you land or something. And she'll be able to chain and chain finish depending on what sort of way you're trying to use her. If you're trying to use her like a traditional Dragoon with High Wind Plus, she'll have access to that. If you're trying to use her as a chainer, she'll have the Scourge Fang Jeopardize Pulsar Burst combo there. Now her passive selection here is going to be a little interesting. She has 150% true double hand, 50% true dual wield, and she does have enables dual wield. So she's much better instantaneously as a dual wield unit in comparison to a lot of other characters that were Dragoons before her, except for maybe Roberta. She's very similar to CG Sid, but she's a lot easier to use than CG Sid because CG Sid didn't have any true dual wield passives, and he didn't have the ability to dual wield weapons at all, whereas Graceful Champion Fang does have the ability to do so. But remember, her trust ability here, if you want to have access to it, is going to be 30%, or not 30%, 50% attack, 50% bonus stats from Bahamut, 50% true dual wield, 50% jump damage, and 3 LB gauge crystals per turn. So basically, if you're using your TMR, you're not able to dual wield because your TMR is true double hand, so you need to have the STMR equipped to actually gain benefit from this true dual wield that she gains, which I think is pretty dumb. If you don't have her STMR, you're just going to be fighting uphill a little bit more. She's going to be more similar to Sid in that fashion and function in comparison to someone like Roberta, who has true dual wield and the 6x mod cap and all the other stuff. She doesn't have the 6x mod cap either. So very similar to Sid. She's got a little bit of earth and wind resistance, and her LB does have an upgraded version. She's got some MP recover per turn, 50% high tide, 50% LB damage, and 3 LB gauge crystals per turn as well. And we already talked about her LB Mega Flare upgraded 33 mod with ignore 50% defense, and that 6x mod increase there. So pretty cool character. But my thing with Neovisions coming out, unless you really are a Fang fan or an FF13 fan, or you're really looking for some burst damage, you don't have CG Sid or the like, I would stay away from pulling for like literally any damage dealers from now on, unless you're a big fan of them. If you're a fan, go for it for sure. But Neovision's characters, I told you guys I'm going to have a video on why I don't care about any damage dealers before Neovisions come out, and why I don't care about pulling on new Neovisions units either that are damage dealers. So look forward to that video. If you want to see that in the future, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, turn the notification bell on so you get access to those videos when they do come out. And until then, guys, stay safe out there. Thank you guys for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, guys.